Just like you can forget your keys, you can forget your trauma. Hey everybody, Dustin here. I wanted to jump on and bring some awareness to the work that I'm doing because a few days ago got the news again that another friend in life decided that they weren't good enough to be here and they chose to take their own life. And this hit me really hard. This hit me really hard again because the truth is, you guys, I've lost several friends to suicide. Our depression numbers are going up. Our anxiety numbers are going up. Our mental health issues and diagnoses and all of that is going up. And I truly believe it's because of one thing, because we aren't educating people on the truth. And so this awareness is really coming into the fold, both online and in person. And I really, really do. It is my passion and my mission to educate on this and to get this in front of all of our systems and all of our structures, because it's the truth, right? It's the truth. And so I want to share a little bit. So if you guys don't know, I just finished a book called Awakening the Force Within, Navigating the Hero's Journey with Spirit Riding Shotgun. And if you haven't checked it out, you can get the OG version right now. And let me just tell you, the OG version is going to have some mistakes. It's going to have some structure that's backwards, some sentences that are backwards. It was my best shot with as many edits as I was willing to do before I completely changed the book. And so I wanted to be able to share that OG version with you. But let me just tell you that in the new version, right, which you're also going to get a copy of if you buy the OG version, you're going to get a copy of the soft cover when it's released. Not sure when that's going to be yet. Maybe I'm shooting for 2 months, but it just got sent off to a professional editor. So it will be available on Amazon, but I'll get you a copy. If you order the OG version, I will make sure I get you a copy. So rest assured, you're going to get that hardcover or the soft cover in your book. Or in your hands. And I talk about my hero's journey over the last 10 years and how I sometimes stumbled, and fucking failed my way into this work. And so it's the last 10 years that I share with you some of the things that I taught myself, some of the things that I learned from some amazing people out there like Tony Robbins, Dean Graziosi, Joe Dispenza, Brene Brown. I share what I learned from them and the insights that really changed my life and insights that I created that changed my life. And then hooking up and meeting Chris Duncan. This work is essential to the survival of our spirits. It really is. It really is, because the human world right now, and we've designed it from the problem structure, it's the way of the human, right? But it's time to create some next level consciousness. And the truth is that most people don't even realize that there's more than one level of consciousness. So if you want the basics of this, I don't have the basics of this explained in this book. So I would highly recommend, if you haven't gotten your hands on it, I've got a link for you. You can get your hands on Chris Duncan's book, You're Not Broken. That is my daily Bible, you guys. And I may get some shit for saying that, but it really is, because it's the truth. It's the truth. It's the truth. And you can get your hands on it for free. And what we're really going to talk about today is how you've lived as a human being, right? And now where you are on the hero's journey, which Chris happens to call the super conscious journey, the journey to super conscious living. I'm going to explain that a little bit to you. And this is what I would teach in Wired for Worthiness, you guys. This is the foundational stuff, and it takes time, right? It takes time in the sense that wherever you are on your emergence path, whether you're the seed or the sapling, Right? It takes time. Can we all agree that you don't put a seed in the ground and expect that you're going to have a 40-foot tree tomorrow? Can we all just agree on that, right? So time is a part of this experience. But we're also going to unpack the now, because time is only made up of the now, and that's all we really have. So I'm going to show you the structure of, in the human way, how we reject the present moment, and how these untruths, the untruths of I'm not enough, I'm not capable, I'm not worthy, I'm not perfect, I don't belong. How those untruths, and there's 9 of them, right? Chris is actually doing a workshop on this. So if you want to, it's how to integrate your shadows and turn them into your superpowers. He just wrote another book. If you want to get your hands on that or join the workshop, I highly recommend his stuff. He is amazing. Because this is it's so important. It's so important. And it's not just important in the way of creating impact and changing the world and up-leveling our education. It's so important because it gives you your magical moments back, right? And if you're not living in the moment, you're living in the past, or you're living in the future, and you're living in your conditioning. If you want to know more about how you reject the present state, how you can tell if you're rejecting the present state, I've got a great questions that I did. I can tag you in that, because it's very interesting how that fluctuates. And in the past 2 weeks, some days I've done that little check-in for the present moment, and I'm like, whew, I am rejecting this. I am rejecting the present moment. And when you rejecting yourself from the present moment, you're cutting yourself off from your true self, right? From your true self. And so this journey starts off, I know you may not be able to see this, and if you're watching on the replay, I'll put a picture up here, but the journey starts off as you being pure creative spirit. Right? So you came and you created a body. You created a body that would house this amazing creative spirit. And in this human body, there were some things that you needed to learn, right? You needed to learn things so that you could stay alive, so that you could belong to your tribe, and that you could feel loved, because we can't take care of ourselves, right? When we're babies. We can't take care of ourselves. We are dependent on other people for our survival, right? So we have to learn how we belong. Not only do we learn from our physical experiences in this human body, but also coded in our DNA is 7 generations of instructions. And that's how, like, a little duck can just be hatched, dry itself off, shake its little butt, and run off into the water after mom and just know how to swim. We have those same instructions in us. We do. And they're coded in our survival. But here's the really amazing thing. Is you're here, you're alive, you're surviving. And can we all agree that even with everything going on right now, we're living in a pretty magical, abundant place? And if we're right here, we're living in a pretty magical, abundant body. And this is the journey that you came here for. This is the experience that you came here for. And if you're rejecting the present moment now, you'll reject the present moment then, and you'll get to the end of your life, or maybe you'll make a decision that it's not worth it to be here, that you're in too much pain, you're suffering too much. Let me just remind you, you are not broken. You are not broken. You do not need to heal. You are not a problem. what happens as we experience that we are now in a limited body, we make up stories from a childlike perspective. Our unconscious does this between the ages of 0 and 4. It makes up stories. It notices things. It creates these limitations to keep us in these certain places of being loved and belonging and feeling like we belong, right? And so this goes into a lot deeper work in like family constellations and Bert Hellinger. And if you want to go into it deeper, it's fascinating, right? How our unconscious works but ultimately, when we now realize that we are limited, right? We have now taken on the not it perspective. And in the not it perspective, we create our realities from these untruths because something happens and can we all agree that as a child between the ages of 4 that there is going to be a time that you try and express yourself and you are going to get rejected. Right? You're going to get maybe yelled at. You're going to get ignored. Your needs are not going to be met. And what happens is your unconscious decides that it must be me. It must be me. It must be me. It must be me. I must not be lovable. I must not be capable. I must not be enough. I must not be perfect. Right? That is the human way. And every single human being has to go through this. We go through this. No human being is exempt. Right? And you are not the exception to the rule. I know sometimes our human wants to fight for our limitations. Our human wants to fight for our limitations. But Dustin, let me just tell you, you don't know what I've been through. You don't know what I've been through. I've been through some stuff, right? Nobody else on the rest of the planet is broken, but I am. Right? See, I've got a diagnosis. See, I've always been this way. See, have you ever experienced that, fighting for your limitations? Whew, sometimes we fight for our limitations. And that's the way of our unconscious, right? That's the way of our unconscious. And so that just tells us, which consciousness we're in. And it's not that our unconscious is doing anything wrong or battling against us or fighting us or anything like that. It actually is working in the exact way that it's supposed to, because it kept you alive. You're here, right? It's doing a great job. Your identities have kept you safe. They have kept you safe. And here's the truth is we're just running off of past instructions. We're just running off of past instructions and structure and instructions and our orientation of where we create. If we're creating from those untruths, we're creating from the not it structure. And let me go over. Okay. Yeah. So we're creating from the not it structure. And when we create from the not it structure, whatever that is, I'm not it, I'm not good enough, I'm not capable, I'm not perfect, whatever those orientations are that we create from, when we create from that place, right, our identities will, and our unconscious has to continue to prove that we are not it. And so this is why you can choose different circumstances, but you can still get the same results. And this think of how many people that win the lottery go broke within a certain number of years. Right? They may have different circumstances. You may think that if you get the money, then life will be good. You may think that once you get what you think that you want, then you're allowed to have it, then you're capable, then you're worthy of it. But the thing is in that problem structure, because the identity, if you went and had something to prove that you were it, the identity would have to die. And so your unconscious will always keep you in an oscillation, and that's creating from the orientation. But here's the amazing thing, and here's what you'll hear me repeat over and over and over and over and over again, because I can't say this enough. And this work takes time to sink in. It takes time to practice, right? It's the seed, right? If you're new to this, it's the seed that has to align with the abundant forest. And the abundant forest is already in the seed, but it takes time to align with that. And that's what this work does. Because just as you have practiced your unconscious conditioning and how you can go on autopilot and 95% of what you think that you're choosing consciously, 95% of what you think, what you feel, the actions you take, the results that you get, your emotions, your energy, 95% of that is pre-sent instructions. It's pre-programmed unconscious behavior from instructions that you created when you were between the ages of 0 and 4. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? But our unconscious is a yes man. Our unconscious is a yes man. So with different processes that we teach in Wired for Worthiness, the anchoring, the recoding, the family patterning, right? The quantum jumping, right? These are just some of the processes that we teach. The mind shifting, the magnetic alignment, the double bubble, getting in the magnetic moment. Like, we teach processes to teach you and your body how to do this, because you have to recondition your conditioning. And can we all agree that takes time? Anybody have pets here? Anybody ever try and train a puppy, right? Is that puppy perfect the first time that you set down a treat? No, right? And so when we're shifting into a new orientation and a new structure, coming from the place that I am it, because you can't skip that step. You have to acknowledge that you are the creative force within, right? And you are just on your journey, and you were waking up to the understanding, right? That we started off as the creative spirit within. We created a body. We forgot that we were the creative spirit within, and we identified as the body. And now, right, we're making the shift so that we can consciously choose what it is that we want to create. And we shift. This work is incredible. This work is incredible. And it takes time. And it takes practice. And it takes guides. It takes guides. And I'm not just talking about consuming free content. I am talking about somebody helping you and holding your hand through certain parts of this journey. Because this goes against what society gives you right now. It's not that it goes against, it's a completely different orientation. And this is not the norm right now. This is not the norm right now. This is creating a lot of momentum online. This is shifting a lot of people into their next level of consciousness, because you have your self-conscious, you have your unconscious, and you have your superconscious. Your self-conscious talks and thoughts, speaks in thoughts. Your unconscious speaks in emotions. And your superconscious is the quantum field. It's the information. It's the connection to everything that you already are. It's the connection to the abundant forest. And you can absolutely 100% step into your superconscious. Because you are the superconscious creator already. You already have a magnetic mind. You already do. But you're being unconsciously trained with it, right? You're being unconsciously trained to make certain decisions that are going to have certain results, because your unconscious has a story that the unknown is unsafe. So the structure that we stay in rejecting the present moment, and I know that this is maybe, hopefully you can see this the right way, right? So the wizard's gate, the present moment, this is what we have. This is what we really have. This is what we really, 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 really have. Like, there's no then, there's only now. And if you don't enjoy the now, you won't enjoy the now then. And when you do wake up, maybe at the end of your life, how much of those magical moments did you really participate in? Were you really aware of? And that's why they say that, I think one of the biggest regrets of the dying is that regretting that they didn't follow their dreams, regretting that they didn't walk in courage, regretting that they didn't find out who they really were. And you just got to ask yourself if that's a journey that you're willing to take to find out who you are. Because it's really easy. We've designed it pretty easy to go back to sleep. We've created a great design in lulling you to sleep. But when you acknowledge that you are the superconscious creator and you get to choose, right? You begin to make that shift. And how our human is designed, our unconscious human is designed to reject the present moment, right? Is to live and reject the what I don't want, which is something that we've identified as worse, or living in the what I want and deciding from the what I want is going to be better than the right now. And like I said, if you want to take a little exercise that is just a good check-in to see how much you're rejecting the present moment, let me know. Put a comment down. And I can shoot you that little exercise or tag you in it, because that's going to fluctuate, right? We are human beings. That's going to fluctuate. But what if you could teach yourself to go from, let's say, being conscious an hour a day. I think sometimes my consciousness, my super consciousness and being present in the moments was even lower than an hour a day. But let's say an hour a day. Let's say an hour a day you're consciously choosing, and 23 hours you're unconsciously choosing. What if you could start to increase the moments in which you consciously choose, so that you could start choosing to create a life that you love, that you could start choosing health and vitality, that you could start choosing to live your true nature and purpose, and that you could start choosing to being the primary creator of your life, and to start creating from the creative structure instead of the problem structure. Because when you're in the problem structure, the one thing that always has to exist is the problems. And the circumstances may look different, right? They may have different names. They may have different faces, but you will get the same result. And anybody that is creating from the problem structure is going to get those same results. It's not unique to you. It's not personal. It's just structural. So what if I could teach you how to create in the correct structure? So that you could experience more of a life that you love. And I'd love to take that hour of consciousness to 23 hours of consciousness so that you can suck the marrow out of every magical moment. Because if you ever walked in synchronicity, if you've ever stepped into that magical moment, right? Chris calls it the magnetic moment, where you just are choosing to create because you were put here to create, and you're living your true nature and purpose, and you're the primary creator, and you're living in abundance now and living in the magic now, and you step into the wizard's gate. It's magical. It's magical. And the truth is, every single moment, you get to redecide. Right? You get to redecide. So your past has no bearing on where you can grow. And just like you can forget your keys, you can forget your trauma. You can forget your labels. You can forget your limiting beliefs. You can forget. And science is starting to prove the magic of the reconsolidation moment in our brains and how we can begin to create new neurological pathways, and how we can start to train our unconscious conditioning, our emotional body, into being the superconscious creator that we are, and just being able to choose to create a life that we love. It's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing. But people peril when they try and do it alone. Because depending on how many years you've been living your unconscious instructions, it takes a little time to slow the crazy brain. It takes a little time. And it's not about perfection. It's just about practice. And so we walk you through these processes and show you how you can start retraining your unconscious, and then we give you space to practice, right? And that's why we have the weekly transformation session. So even if you can just make it to one transformation session, whether that's in Wired for Worthiness, whether that's in Magnetic Mind, if you want to hear about either one of them, I can walk you through it. Get in a community. Get in a community where people are going to remind you that you are a super conscious creator, because society has set it up very easy for you to just forget. It's intentionally designed to take your attention. And so that's why also in Wired for Worthiness, I'm going to show you how to tap into your 3 most innate superpowers, right? Your choice, your focus, and your flow. But if you're going for your black belt on this, right? In the hero's journey, let me just tell you, if you don't know this already, the hero's journey is the double black diamond run, and you don't have to choose it. But if you choose it, Go all in, because there are some tools, there are some lights, there are some stepping stones that are going to help you walk this path. And every moment you get to redecide. So I talk a lot about, and I'm going to start talking a lot about what I call the re-up your life. Because the more I do this work, the more I really truly understand it's just a game of instructions. Where for so long in my life, as I grew up in some, I want to say worse trauma. I don't want to fight for my trauma, but it just some deep trauma, right? Some deep trauma, a lot of generational trauma, and I'm not separate to everybody else's. Like, people use the word trauma in a lot of different ways, and between the ages of 0 and 4, something that maybe as an adult we may deem as insignificant, it wasn't insignificant to the child. So we all experience trauma. But growing up with a lot of dysfunctional monkeys that were just doing the best that they could with the way that they were taught to use some pretty severe things as coping mechanisms. We're taught pretty deeply that it's not okay to be powerful. We were taught pretty deeply that it's not safe to be ourselves. It's not safe to tap into our magic. Like, it's not safe. Those are some of the instructions that were sent down, right? Being wealthy isn't safe. So there's a lot of those things that were passed down in my line, that I've spent 35 years, 40 years playing out, 35 years, playing actually, well, I played those out, played those out. And so I also really can attest to and share with you guys that there's no trauma that can't be released. Joe Dispenza and Chris Duncan in their events are showing people that heal their bodies in a moment. I just watched an interview with Chris yesterday that somebody that went to one of his 4-day events, Dean, went to one of his 4-day events, literally went there blind, could see by the end of the event, and watched this interview with him, seeing. Now, that may seem like it's really far away from you right now, or that it's just them, or, you don't know how. And the truth is that you don't know how yet, right? We don't teach this information. So that's why in Wired for Worthiness, we teach this information, but we teach this information as a consistent practice to take. As a consistent practice to take, because it is going to take practice. It is going to take practice. So I hope that this was helpful. If it's if there's only a few things that are hitting, that's okay. This is deep work, you guys. This is deep work. This is, remember, a double black diamond run. Double black diamond run. That's the other thing too, is with these processes, with these tools, right? They're just processes. They're just tools to enhance your life so that we can make a decision from I am it. I am worthy. I am enough. I am capable. I do belong. I am loved. That we can make our choices from that orientation more often than I'm not enough. I'm not capable. I'm not perfect. I don't belong. I'm not loved. Because you can take the same action, and this is where I think a lot of people get stuck, is you can take the same action, but when you have two different intentions, you get two completely different results. So if you're creating in the creative orientation of I am it, and you're creating with a future focus of what would I love to create, and you're creating tension that way, that tension is going to pull you into your future. Now it's very simplistic. There's a little bit more to it than that, but that's the structure. Or you're creating the structure from the untruth of I'm not capable with an identity that believes that it's not capable, it's not significant, it's not loved, it's not enough, it's not worthy, it's not perfect, right? And it may take a bunch of different actions, right? And you may actually think that you're changing. But when you're creating from that untruth, what will happen is you will always get the experience of I'm not it. Because what always has to exist in the problem structure is the problem. Does that make sense? So imagine if the problem was you couldn't live in New York. You can go anywhere else but New York, right? You can go to California. You can go, or it's up here. You can go to Michigan. You can go to Florida. My map was way messed up on that one. But you can go all over the United States, right? But you can't go to New York. What always has to exist? You always have to know where New York is to make sure that you're not in it. Now imagine from the creative orientation is that you choose to live in California, right? You may take some of those same actions, right? You may need to move. You may need to pack. You may need to do some of those things. But from the problem structure, the story that has to prove true there is the not New York. From the creative is California. California, right? The end result of California. So what's in California? Maybe that helped a little bit more in just kind of really understanding the structure. And that structure isn't personal. It isn't personal. You are already it, my friend. You are already it. You are not broken. You do not need to be fixed. You do not need to be solved. You don't even need to find your purpose. Your purpose is to create. You are the creative spirit within. What would you love to create? But we are taught to create in the problem structure, right? We're taught to focus on the problems, and where you focus is what creates your life. So again, back to those 3 innate superpowers that you totally already have within you. You already are it, is your choice, your focus, and your flow. You've just been choosing from an unconscious place. So our first walkthrough in Wired for Worthiness is to help get you into the creative structure. And you first have to acknowledge that you are the creative spirit within. Can't skip that step. I know, I've tried to skip that step, but you can't skip that step, that you are the creative spirit within. And what would you like to create? One of the scariest questions I've had over probably 20-some thousand conversations with people over the last 7 to 8 years, probably even more than that. But what do you want is one of the scariest questions for most people. But if you never allow yourself to answer what do you want, or if you're constantly judging and staying within those limits of what do you want, right? You're creating from your unconscious structure. So this is really where the awareness comes in, the practice comes in, and the repetition comes in. Awareness, practice, and repetition. Because wherever you are on the journey, right, you have to become aware of it. You have to become aware of it. And most of the time, our coping mechanisms, drugs, addiction, all those things that are we think are filling us to complete us, that are helping us feel a certain way, is, I lost it. Yeah, I don't remember. I lost it. Anyway, as always, you guys, I hope that this was helpful education. Remember, when you're in this work, action is your highest form of communication. This is why we talk about the practice. This is the Kung Fu kick, right? This is the kick that you do 1,000 times. That's how you change your life, one step at a time, one awareness at a time. Oh, and here's where I was going back to, is most of our coping mechanisms are to avoid what we don't want. And what you resist owns you. What you resist owns you. It'll steal all your time, all your energy, all your effort. It will. What you resist will own you. But what you desire, let's go back to this model. What you desire, if you think it's going to be better than the present moment, if you think it's going to be better than the present moment, that owns you too. Because all you have is the right now. All you have is the now. And I used to get this intellectually, because there's so much, the power of now, all the spiritual jargon, the marketing, like all that, the power of now, all of these things that I heard about now, I got it intellectually. But I didn't get it. Like, I didn't get it here. I didn't get it here. I get it here now. So if you're not happy now, if you're not feeling abundant now, if you're not feeling motivated now, if you're not feeling those things now, you won't feel them then. If you're not grateful now, you won't be grateful with more. And this is super important to get, because this is the secret. They say this is the secret, to the be it to see it. If you don't appreciate the moment now, you won't appreciate the moment then. If you're not aware to the moment now, you won't be aware to the moment then. Tony Robbins says this in a beautiful way with money as well, and I love it. If you don't give $1 on $10, or if you don't give $1 on $100, you'll never give 1,000 on 100,000. You'll never give 100,000 on 1,000,000. You know how so many people say, oh, when I have money, then I'll give to charity. When I have money, then I'll help them out. When I have money, then I'll share. When I have money, but the truth is that if you don't do it on a smaller amount, you're not going to do it on a larger scale. That's the meaning behind it. If you don't value the step, whatever this step is, this moment is, if you don't value this moment as part of the journey, right, you're not going to appreciate the journey. If you don't value the minute, you're not going to value the hour. If you don't value the hour, you're not going to value the day. If you don't value the day, you're not going to value the month. It's true. It's absolutely true. But it is not your fault that you weren't taught to appreciate the present moment. It's not your fault of the instructions that were passed out. It's not your fault, right? It's not personal. There's nothing wrong with you. You are not broken. So as you're beginning to wake up on your hero's journey, as you're beginning to understand where you are on your hero's journey, it's crucial to get into a community of other people that are on the same journey, that are waking up as well, because here's the cool thing is consciousness rises all boats. The tide rises all boats. And it is almost impossible. I'm going to say it's impossible to do it on your own. Even the greats of the greats of the greats had guides, had mentors, right? They had people that held their hands along this journey at different points of the journey. So stop trying to go it alone. You're just going to waste more time. You're going to waste more energy. You're going to waste more effort. And what'll happen is you're going to come back at some point, you're going to come back and realize that you just created another freaking problem. And you're once again stuck in that rumination, stuck in that stuck. How much time just passed by, right? When are you going to try something different? This something different is pretty amazing. It's the best spiritual and scientific education that I've ever had. The pleasure of being able to learn and teach and practice. This work has been what I've been looking for my whole life. So if that's you and you want to join one of our communities, then drop a comment, because these communities are fire. These communities are fire. And whether it's me as your guide, whether it's Angelica as your guide, whether it's another coach in our community as your guide, choose the guide that resonates with you. Choose the guide that you feel pulled to, right? Because you made it here and you made it to this content for a reason. This is your sign. And if you have your ears on and your heart's open, even put your hand on your heart. If any of this stuff resonated, put your hand over your heart and just feel the truth of this. And this is why so many people are choosing to give up. This is why so many people, because they have lost their connection with who they really are. And we are all connected. We are all connected. And I don't care how much you think is going on in your life, how many problems you have. I don't care what trauma you've been through. I don't care what stories you have. And the reason why I'm saying it like that is because those are just your creations, right? Those are just your creations. And it's not that I don't care that those things happen to you, but I care about you creating what you love in your future. I care about your true nature and purpose and you being able to tap into the full potential and the full magic of that. I care about you in this moment. I care about you and your conscious choice to change the world within you. That's the beauty. That's where the magic lives. And I'm going to say it again. Just like you can forget your keys, when you learn how, you can forget your trauma. You don't have to spend years in therapy. And no knock on therapy per se, but in my mind, we have some of the incorrect structures for our addiction programs, for our recovery programs, for our education programs. We have some of the wrong structures embedded in the beginning where people hang on to these limited identities. My belief, I'm not knocking on it. If it's helped you, amazing. Right? This work isn't set to replace any of that, but the number one step that you can't skip is I am the creative force within. You have to acknowledge that. You have to acknowledge that. If you miss that step, you're creating from the problem structure because you already are it. Right? You are already it. And it's not about fixing yourself. It's not about going on this hunt to heal your past or anything like that. You don't need to heal your past. You can forget your past. You can forget the part of your past that is holding you back. You can forget the emotional triggers and actually create new emotional triggers to help you walk into creating a life you love. Because that's how you created the past. You can create the past from the same place that you can create your future, right? I loved this when we talked about quantum jumping yesterday, right? You remember your past from the same place that you remember your future. And that's why quantum jumping is so cool. It's such a cool process that we can take you through because it really solidifies how you can start to begin to create a new future. And your current reality has no bearing on what your future can look like. Your past has no bearing on what your future can look like. So if this work is speaking to you, we need people to go through it. We need people to walk through it. We need people to wake up. Well, we don't need people. I think the world would appreciate some more consciousness people so that we can start making some more conscious choices on taking care of everybody and taking care of our planet and taking care of our bodies instead of going down the mass marketing and instant gratification, train. Because we were put here to create. We were put here to create. And so I personally want to create a world of conscious creators who are creating what they love. Because in creating what they love, love comes with that. Right? Then love becomes the structure. And where that used to be a little woo-woo to me, now that I understand the science and now that I teach the science behind your heart energy and your love energy and how that taps into your superconscious and how to create in the invisible quantum field, because that's how everything is created, right? You are already a magnetic mind. You have just been unconsciously creating. Imagine if you could use that magnetic mind to create what you consciously wanted to create, right? Because how good are you at creating unconsciously in your life? Man, ooh. How many of the same problems did I create? How many of the same patterns did I create? Like, oh, I am an amazing creator, right? I've just been creating unconsciously, and now I choose to create consciously. That is the shift. That is the journey. So if that sounds like a journey that you want to go on and you are ready to go all in and that you have a willingness, to come from a place of no past, to create a future that you love, to create more health and vitality, not to create more, to create health and vitality, to create a life living your true nature and purpose, and to create a life where you are the primary creator in your life. You're not the only creator in your life. and you allow others to do the same, doesn't that sound pretty good? I think so. I think so. But anyway, you guys, I hope that this was helpful. I hope that this landed from my heart to yours. As always, I can't wait to see how this continues to unfold.